Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Today I will be a judge, jury, and your analyst for the Retro Cup. So these are my top 5 teams for the Retro Cup. I know Retro Cup is a little over 2 weeks away, but I wanted to make this video early just in case some of you are confused. As in, the Retro Cup isn't really that interesting. No, really. So, I don't know what, I get why you call it the Retro Cup, but seriously, banning every type past Gen 1 doesn't mean this meta is balanced. In fact, you're going to see that there's a lot of Pokemon in this meta that are just ridiculously strong, which proves for ridiculously powerful teams. As you see here, please consider, as I always say, please consider contributing to ppoke.com. Do so right here. And again, this is for the Retro Cup, so as you see here, Retro Cup is available, and Retro Cup is very annoying because anything past Gen, which means Dark types, Steel types, Fairy types, and Dark, Steel, Fairy. I'm missing one more typing. It's on the top of my head. I think that's it. No, wait. There's one more! Don't remind me. But the first 12... Wait. Okay, so it's Steel. Oh yeah. Steel, Dark, Fairy. No, wait. That's it. Yeah. Steel, Dark, and Fairy, right? I think that's it. I think there's one more. But basically, it bans some typings. And that's pretty much it. Anyways, instead of me sounding like an idiot, I apologize. Totally forgot. I know it's on the top of my head, and by the end of this video, I will find it. Anyways, this is of the top 5 teams for the Retro Cup. Alright, so my first team features Alola Marowak lead. Hypno or Snorlax can be your safe switch. So the thing about Hypno is an incredibly powerful safe switch in the Retro Cup. You can also use Snorlax. Snorlax is pretty safe as well against the Psychic safe switch archetype. So either one of these you could safe switch with. Hypno is the main safe switch here, but again, you can use Snorlax as well. This is pretty much a Kanto Cup team. This team still does very well. As you see here, it will feature a Hex Alola Marowak and an Ice Punch Shadow Ball Hypno. There's not a lot of reason for you to use Thunder Punch. That's why I don't have it. And if you see here, if you change the rating if you change it from Ice Punch, because Ice Punch covers the dragons. Other than that, most of the time you'll be using Shadow Ball. If you use Thunder Punch, your coverage does suffer. Or one portion of it suffers. So, as you see, if you use Thunder Punch, as you see, coverage does suffer. Just because you need, even though you're not using, even though Alola Marowak with Hex is fine because you don't get walled by you don't get resisted on by, what's the word I'm looking for here? Altaria doesn't resist Fire Spin. Still, it's better to have Ice Punch. As you see, Ice Punch has better coverage just for the dragons. Snorlax is very powerful with Body Slam. You're going to Body Slam away if you have Snorlax lined up into anything, particularly the Altaria. As you see here, it has good coverage, good bulk, great coverage, great bulk, great consistency, and it's a very safe team. If you are used to using this team in the Kanto Cup, it's probably going to work just as effective for you in the Retro Cup, because I know some people that I know are actually using this team variation. So Hypno, a lot, again, these Pokemon are very popular in the Kanto Cup, so you should be able to use them very effectively, and they're pretty accessible. AWAC, Hypno, and Snorlax have been around for a while, so you should have these in your arsenal. As you see here, this team does very, very well against a lot of top meta picks, like Cresselia, Deoxys. It does very well against the Psychic archetype, so you want to see Psychic on this team. Other than that, if you see over here things like Licky Licky or Drifblim, the Ghost lead can give you a problem, or Ghost in general. As you see here, Drifblim, Jellicent give Alola Marowak and Hypno a little bit of a hard time. Yes, you get to Shadow Bone faster than they do to get to Shadow Ball for Drifblim and Jellicent. However, you're gonna have to be a little careful because Shadow Ball on your Alola Marowak will hurt a lot. 9 times out of 10, it probably will close to be okay. You'll close to be getting one-shotted by Shadow Ball, so just be careful of that. Hypno needs Shadow Ball just for the sheer fact that Shadow Ball is there to cover Psychic types and, of course, Ghost types. There's a lot of scenarios where I played the Kanto Cup and I've been able to squeeze out wins just because Hypno can land a Shadow Ball on a Alola Marowak or a Psychic Alola Marowak, or just pretty much any Psychic type in general. And as you see, Snorlax is a very powerful safe switch against a lot of your weaknesses. Again, Snorlax is a beast. You can safe switch into Hypno, or you can use Snorlax safe switch. I like the double safe switch method. As you see here, this team does really well. Semi-high threat score, but what I really like about this team, you're not likely going to see Gyarados, Diggersby, Suicune, Lord B. Burrell. If you see Lord B. Burrell, just quit top left immediately. You must leave the match because it is a god and it will destroy you. I'm just kidding, just don't do it. But as you see here, again, your top core breakers, you're not likely going to see any of them. Yes, Diggersby is powerful, however, there are better things out there that can surf against Diggersby, and you can probably still see fighters in this meta. Keywords, maybe. As you see here, this team does very, very well, just with the concerning factors like I mentioned before, along with Lickitung and Licky Licky. Lickitung resists your Hex, so Lickitung and Licky Licky are going to give you a little bit of a problem just because it technically does have super effective damage against your low Marowak and your Hypno. You can put Swampert on Lickitung, but you're just going to have a Lick Fest, and Lickitung is surprisingly thick. So Lickitung XL can be your big problem for this team. But again, if you have these three teams and you're used to using this team, it could perform very well for the Retro Cup, just like it does for the Kanto Cup. Alright, so for team number 4, I feature to you Frostless, Lantern, and Altaria. This team's actually surprisingly good. This features Lantern as a safe switch. Lantern is pretty safe in this meta. There's not a lot of things that are ground typing, or you're not going to see a lot of them just because G-Fisk is banned. Well, G-Fisk is banned. You could probably see Diggersby, but ground type isn't really that effective in this meta, and Lantern still has Hydro Pump if you still happen to see a ground type. Either way, even if you do see it, you have Frostless to cover said ground typing, and this team actually performs very well. Altaria is strong as a closer, as long as you don't go against even if you do go against an Ice-type Pokemon, if the Ice-type Pokemon just really beat up, Altaria can finish off in the back. As you see here, you can only even reorder this if you want. You could use the Lantern as the lead, Frostless as your safe switch, and you could close out with Lantern, up to you. But Frostless lead, this team is basically designed to break shields and then clean up with Lantern and Altaria in the back. As you see here, this team is great coverage, bulk, safety, and a lot of great consistency. The most powerful teams I'm going to show you up aren't super friendly. This team kind of is, just because Frostless, Lantern, and Altaria are pretty accessible. And as you see here, they do pretty dang well against a lot of popular meta picks. Now, the thing is, Lickitung XL is a beast, so Lickitung XL can give you a problem when it comes to Lantern, just because it has Power Whip. But other than that, you could Frostless, Lantern, and Altaria, you could try to chip damage away. Lickitung XL is probably going to be your biggest threat. As you see here, you have double coverage against the Alolan Marowak, so you can just safe switch out and then take it out with Altaria, etc. So it's really up to you. But as you see here, this team is extremely powerful, does surprisingly well against a lot of meta picks, or against the overall meta in general. And for if you look at what you're weak against, you're not going to see a Graveler and Electros very often. You also beat a ton of different things, like you beat Dragonair in the 2 shield, you beat both, I don't know why Dragonair's here, well this is the 1 and the 0 shield, so it doesn't count for the 2 shield, but in the 2 shield you could beat a lot of these Pokemon, like Dragonair. You can also try to take shields from Lapras or get Shadow Balls through, it's really up to you, but your biggest problem are going to be the Ice Water tanks in Lapras and Dugong, and of course Lickitung. If you lose the lead, say switch into Lantern, and then close out with Frostless and Altaria. Frostless is the most powerful closer in the game, so if you could leave Frostless with shields, or you could leave Altaria with energy, etc., it's really up to you, and how this scenario plays out, it could do really well for you. And this team actually has a very low threat score. This is actually one of the lowest threat scores I can find at 611. Threat score doesn't matter too heavily, however, it does matter when you're looking at patterns, and this team does well against a lot of patterns. Again, I try to find some top teams that have some user-friendly Pokemon, as in they're not really behind a wall like Deoxys Defense or Lickitung XL, because the next teams I'm going to feature do feature Lickitung XL, and I really think that Pokemon should have been banned. But again, Frostless lead, Lantern safe switch, Altaria in the back. You can restructure this if you want to. You can make it to where Altaria's in lead, Frostless safe switch, and you close out with Lantern, but it's really up to you. Alright, now to go for the more expensive stuff, as in stuff that's legendary, stuff that's mythical, or stuff that's just really hard to get, like a Cresselia. So unless you got the Sinnoh Breakthrough Research, you probably aren't going to have or not Sinnoh Breakthrough, the Sinnoh Special Research, which gave you a Grass Knot Cresselia, you'll probably have to, well, you still have to trade one to you because you can't catch one unless it's Research, as far as Cresselia goes, and you need to Elite Tam it for the Grass Knot. But as you see here, Cresselia is a very powerful safe switch, Altaria, Cresselia, and Lapras. This team is very powerful. I don't even need to say it to you or explain it to you. It has great coverage, and everything else is really freaking good. Your safe switch is Cresselia. Lapras, you could say switch it in as well. It's really up to you, but Cresselia is the safe switch, and all of these are extremely bulky, extremely safe, and extremely consistent. This team will do a lot of damage. As you see here, this team is... The biggest concern is probably Frostless. However, Frostless isn't even too much of a concern as well, just because it does take a minute to get to Shadow Ball, and Cresselia can chip away with Moonblast and Grass Knot. And also, Lapras does resist Avalanche as well. So, you have Frostless is probably your biggest threat. Outside of Frostless and other ice types, for the most part, you beat all the other ice types. You'll beat Obama, you beat Snowy Castform, you beat Obama Snow, so you could beat Obama Snow, etc. So, again, the ice type is your biggest weakness. Again, otherwise, you do pretty well against the overall meta. Even against Jellicent, except if Jellicent has Ice Beam. Just remember, in the 2-shield, you will lose against the Jellicent with 2-shield if it has Ice Beam, so just keep that in mind. This team is very powerful. Alolan Graveler, which is very strange. Well, it is an electric type, so it can give Lapras a hard time, but generally, you could still Grass Knot it to death. This does take the 1-shield scenario, so... Alolan Graveler is quick, it is powerful, however, Lapras and Cresselia do have coverage moves against it, so it's not that threatening, and you can kind of drag her. What you can do is you can eat a whole discharge from Alolan Graveler. Well, actually, it's probably going to carry Rock Blast. Actually, yeah, it has Rock Blast and it has Stone Edge. You're probably going to have to shield most of everything. But anyways, as you see here, very, very powerful team. Does really, really well. A lot of the things you're weak to, as I explained before, you basically run through them. Or another technique you can use is just sacrifice Altaria and then come out with Cresselia and Lapras with energy, because Cresselia and Lapras are extremely tanky and they are very strong, especially with energy advantage. But as you see here, you can run through a lot of combinations. Again, your biggest threat is the Ice type. Safe switch into Cresselia. Lapras can go against its fellow Lapras, depending on like what you come out of the matchup you switched into. Other than that, as you see, this team has a very low threat score. It is very, very safe. Very, very powerful. And it does feature Cresselia in it. However, I think this is a really good team. I tested it, and it does really surprisingly well. Even though, like I mentioned, you do have the Ice Lead weakness, Cresselia and Lapras do surprisingly well against the Ice archetype. And the most powerful teams. So, the most powerful teams have Lickitung XL in them. Lickitung XL is extremely safe in this meta just because even if you put a fighter against it, a fighter doesn't resist Lick. At the same time, Dark types are banned, which means there's nothing really stopping from a Lickitung XL from literally licking you to death, unless it is a Snorlax or something that resists Lick, which is, yeah. And with Fairies banned, you don't see Wigglytuff, etc. So Lickitung is extremely powerful. In my opinion, it probably should have been banned. This features Lickitung, Deoxys Defense Safe Switch, and Hypno to close out. This is an Ice Punch Hypno. The reason you want Ice Punch is just to cover the Dragon archetype. As you see here, this is an ABB team, and it does very, very well. As you see here, A's across the board except for consistency, which doesn't really matter just because it's all these 3 Pokemon still will deal a humongous amount of damage. Otherwise, but this team's just so powerful. As you see here, against the entire meta, it literally trucks through like practically everything. If you can't beat one thing, the other two can, either one or the other two can cover your back, or the lead can beat whatever the back cannot cover. So it's a very safe team, extremely powerful, not a lot of holes at all. You can probably imagine it has one of the lowest threat scores I have seen. There is no single core breaker that will beat this entire, or, well, not really this entire, there's nothing that this team is weak against entirely, and it does very, very well against a lot of top meta picks. Remember when I was mentioning Snorlax and other things? You could probably sack Lickitung if you wanted to, and then, even if you do see Snorlax, and just pretty much just farm down Snorlax with Hypno or Deoxys Defense, it's up to you. Either way, Psychic is very powerful in a condensed meta like this because Steel typings are banned, so are Dark types. Steel and Dark are banned, and that brings Ghost. However, Ghosts aren't very safe because of Psychic types. Psychic types Ghost types. Well, Ghosts are great, they're just not, there's just a lot. For example, if you have Drifblim, Lickitung will lift Drifblim to death. Deoxys Defense can Rock Slide said Drifblim. Hypno can hit it with Shadow Ball. So, Ghosts aren't super safe at all just because of the amount of coverage. If you're talking about Haunter or Gengar, they pretty much get deleted by Hypno. And of course, because Dark types are banned, Sableye isn't available in this meta. So if you have a Lickitung XL will dominate the Retro Cup meta. If you have one built, good for you. If you don't have one built, I'd be prepared to kill a lot of them. A lot. And I mean, yeah, a lot of them. As you see, just because this team is so powerful. And the sole reason is Lickitung XL. And now, as far as my most powerful team for the Retro Cup, that literally just screams, how the hell is a new player gonna get these Pokemon? I can't tell you, because, well, you can get Altaria, but I'm talking about Lickitung and Deoxys Defense. Lickitung XL, even I don't have one. Yes, I played the Kanto Cup hard, however, Lickitung wasn't spawning that much, so I don't really have one built. Along with that, Deoxys Defense is put behind a raid wall, and if you don't have one right now, you're out of luck, because it's only available in raids, and you can't get it traded to you because it is mythical. The only thing that's accessible out of this entire team is Altaria. And I don't even need to tell you that this team is good. Literally, the overview just screams this team is absolutely godly, and for good reason. As you see here, this team it has very little holes. It has very little holes. As you see here, your biggest weakness is the Ice type in the back. However, Lickitung and Deoxys Defense destroy most Pokemon that do have said Ice type. So, because you have such mad coverage with your lead, Altaria is pretty safe and can wipe out the closers pretty comfortably. As you see here, there is no singular core breaker for this team. Anything with an 8 coverage doesn't have anything that basically core breaks it to oblivion. As you see here, there's a lot of plays you could still do with Lickitung. You could still 2-shield your way through any of the matchups you see here in the lead, except for fighters. And even if you do find fighters, you could stay switch into Deoxys Defense and lock the fighter into Altaria. This team has the lowest threat score of 505. So this team is extremely powerful, extremely safe. As you see here, it's super strong, super strong. Like, teams that have like close to a 500 rating are basically just obscenely broken. And like I said here, unless you directly like hard counter the crap out of this team, which really doesn't have a lot of hard counters to begin with, whoever has this team has an immense advantage over the rest of anyone that's lacking either Lickitung XL or doesn't team build really effectively, because this team just erases... This team's really freaking good. And just really screams and just puts the amount that even though this is a limited meta, what they should have done was direct... I think Lickitung XL should have been banned. Or just ban all XL Pokemon from the Retro Cup. Just because Lickitung XL is just far too powerful for the Retro Cup. And that's all, guys. You know, I'm trying to find this kind of like catchphrase to say at the end of videos. I should probably say that's all battlers, but I'm gonna feel like Bugs Bunny or like something like that. I don't feel like I feel like I'm gonna get copyright or something like that. So that's why I just say that. Anyways, if you guys can figure out something, just let me know in the comments, because I'm trying to find something. I think that's all battlers. Kind of it's just really cheesy. So I think and that's it is very good. At least that's what I say for now. If you don't like it, let me know in the comments. But yeah. Anyways, as you see here, I hope these teams do help you. Deoxys Defense, Cresselia, things that are really inaccessible, have a very good advantage here, especially XL Lickitung. XL Lickitung is the most powerful lead and safe switch in the Retro Cup, and as you see here, it's just so freaking good. So if you do have one, rejoice, because you're going to do very well for the Retro Cup. If you don't have one, be prepared to kill one, at least. Not to say that doesn't mean other Pokemon or other teams aren't going to be really good, but it's just like to show you, based on what I've showed you over here, XL Lickitung is extremely, it's like God, it's God tier. So it's very God tier. Anyways, if you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm working really hard for the Retro Cup and trying to pump out content before it comes out. I know it's early, but I wanted to get it out early just so that you guys can start preparing. I'll also be releasing Retro Cup content up until it comes up, and more things along the way as data gets updated. Good luck on your guys' Go Battle League sets. Again, if you have made Legend, congratulations. I'm super happy for you. Otherwise, if you made your goals, pretty close to there, so we'll see what happens. But good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I will see you guys on the next video.